Hi friends, welcome back to Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. If you're new here, my name is Davine and I am homeschooling 4 kids ages 9, 10, 11, and 13. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my 5 best tips on how to homeschool multiple ages. Today's video is a collaboration hosted by Nikki from Homeschoolology. I definitely recommend that you check out her channel. I will link her channel below. I will also be linking a playlist where a bunch of moms are sharing their best tips on how to homeschool multiple ages. So be sure to check out that playlist when you're done this video. And my first tip is to take each child's strengths and weaknesses into account. I struggle with this a bit because I have 4 kids and they all have various strengths and challenges, and kids don't all need the same things. And so sometimes I try to make things fair, but it's really hard to make things fair because not everyone needs to work on the same things. So I think it's really important to just be okay with that, to be okay with challenging the kids individually in what they need, as well as giving them their own time to be able to explore their interests and pursue those things that they're really interested in. So I have some children who need a little extra help in different areas, and so I always have to find curriculum or find things for them to work on in these areas of challenge. And then I have some kids who don't need a whole lot of help in the basics, and so I just need to find ways to be able to challenge them in their strengths and help them to excel even more in their strengths. And then I have a child who I really can't give too much to. There will be a lot of kickback if I try to give more than he is willing to do. He doesn't need a lot of extra help with the basics. We just cover the basics. And then when I try to give him things, it always has to be something that is interesting to him. And I just have to be okay with him doing more things on his own. He does a lot of self-led learning. He has some very specific interests and he definitely pursues those. So I just have to be okay with allowing him a little extra time to do those things. So my first tip is don't try to force things onto your children. If it's not something that you find that that child specifically needs, try to just tailor the curriculum to each child and don't feel like you need to make everything exactly even and fair. I will say that this reduces a lot of stress in our homeschool. If I try to make each of my kids do the exact same amount of things or the exact subjects or types of things, I would definitely run into some challenges. My second tip today is to make sure that when you're planning out the work, you have a balance of work that the child can do almost completely independently, and then the work that your child might need help with. When you have kids with these 2 different types of subjects, you will be able to come up with a better flow or schedule for your homeschool, and you will know what they can do when you're working with another student. Just make sure that each child has those things where they can just do things more independently. So some of those things in my house are handwriting. That's something very easy. They don't need help with. They can do those on their own. Another thing would be maybe an activity book that they're interested in. They can work on that. Sometimes Explode the Code is that for us. It depends on the child. Different children need help in different subjects. And so just think about each child and think about what can you give them that they could do completely on their own so they have something to do when you're working with another child. My third tip is to teach things together as much as possible. I am in the unique situation where I have 4 kids within 4 years, and in some ways that can be quite a large span. A 4-year age gap can be quite large, but in other areas it isn't. And I know lots of people have even a much wider spread of ages, and so these tips might be more specific for those people who have kids that are closer in age. But I have found that I can teach a lot of things to all 4 of my kids together, and I can require different amounts of output from them after I've taught these subjects. So there are actually 2 ways that you can combine children. It doesn't always have to be all your children together, which is one of the things I love to do, but it also can be combining 2 students or 3 students together if they're close in ability. My 2 youngest boys are very close in ability when it comes to math and it comes to language arts. And I won't say they are exactly at the same level, because no kids will be exactly at the same level, but they are very, very close to the same level. So that really takes off a lot of stress from me, and I'm able to teach my boys together for like language arts and math and a lot of those subjects. So that really helps. Another thing is, even if your kids are at different abilities, I also teach my two girls together on a few things. Their abilities are not quite as closely matched, but I can still teach. For instance, I'm teaching them IEW together, a writing program, and the output will be different depending on the child, but they can both watch the videos, they can both do the assignments, and then what is given to me will be at different levels based on that child. But that is another way you can combine. They don't have to be at the exact same level to teach them together. Then the other thing is I do teach all four of my children together about half of the day. We do things like language arts, we do math, science, Bible, we have morning basket things where I read to them. We do a lot of things together as a family. So that is about half of our day. Half of our day we are doing things together. There's only one of me, and I can be with all four of my children at the same time. I am going to walk you through our daily schedule just to give you an example of what that looks like in our day-to-day life. Before I head over to do that, I'm going to tell you my fourth tip. My fourth tip is to think about what you want your day to look like. So lots of people don't like to come up with a strict schedule, and I'm not saying that these things have to be like exactly to the minute or that you have to start at a certain time of the day, even though we do. And I have figured out pretty closely how much time we take for each section, what feels natural for us. But I'm not saying you have to come up with a schedule like that, but I am saying that you do want to think about your day and how you want it to flow and what different kids can be doing at different times. So I'm going to show you my schedule in a minute here, and I'm going to talk about what we're doing together, and then when we're apart, what is happening there, who's doing what. And it's just something that is helpful to think about before you start your school year or as you're doing your school year. What can these kids be doing while I'm working with this child? Or what can someone do independently while I'm busy with this other activity? So that's just something to think about when you're thinking of your homeschool day and trying to come up with a plan. So in talking about creating a schedule or a flow or a routine, however you want to call it, different people will need different amounts of structure. We're pretty scheduled, I'll say. We do start at a certain time every day, and that is something that I have pretty much enforced since the beginning. I do find if we don't get started on time, we don't get through as much as I would like, and we do have a lot of very busy afternoons, so we do need to get through a lot of our work in the morning. So we do have a pretty firm start time. But here is our schedule. If you've seen it, you might have seen it in past videos, but I do go through and I think about each day, and I think about what I can accomplish each day based on the afternoon activities. This schedule can be tweaked, and you will see that it does have times. It does have times there, but really I'm not setting a timer. I'm not looking at the clock. I just know that this is how long things take, or this is how long we start to feel a little antsy towards that time. So this is just this is more of a flow or let's say a routine than it is a schedule, but I do have times on there because over time I have kind of developed a sense for how long each activity takes or how long I would like each activity to take. But we're not stopping at a certain time and moving on. We follow this schedule, let's say, pretty loosely, except for when we need to leave. So for example, we need to eat lunch at that point so we can get to their speech or occupational therapy. If you're new here and you're finding this content interesting or helpful, please do give me a like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're notified of when future videos are up. All right, so I apologize for the glare on my whiteboard. I hope you can see things okay. I tried to get rid of it, I cannot. So I just wanted to show you and give you an example of how our day goes with my 4 children and sort of how we jump in and out of independent work and group time. So here is Monday coming up, and I do like to write on the board when we're starting, when we're ending, because we have something we need to get to. So this just reminds me and the kids that we need to be done by that time. So we start with devotions, personal devotions. My 2 girls can do this pretty independently. This is something they've done in the past. So I have a devotions book for them. They know what to do. They know how much time to spend. And so I'm sitting with my boys as they are doing this because this is new for them. I'm helping them find the verses in the Bible. I'm helping them kind of make sure they read through the activity and answer the questions. So this time I'm working with my boys as my girls are working independently. This is about 15 minutes of our day. Then we move into math and independent studies. So my oldest daughter, she will get on the computer. She will watch her math lesson, which takes 5 to 10 minutes. And my boys will get started on their math. So Their math is teaching textbooks. It is on a tablet. They can generally do it on their own most of the time. They might need a little bit of help here and there, but they're sitting at the table and they can do that pretty independently as long as I'm sort of in the area. When my daughter's done with her math on the computer, she will come over to the table and I will sit there and just help her with the new concept, make sure she understands it, and then just be there as she goes through the review questions if she's forgotten how to do something, or just make sure she can get the first few right before she continues on her own. So I'm just kind of sitting there, I'm just in the area to help with math with those 3 children. My other daughter, she is very independent. She just works in the homeschool room, and if she needs me, she'll just call me and I'll go in there and do that. But in general, she works pretty much independently when she's working on her math or independent work. So next we have this section here. So we go into Bible. That is something we're doing all 4 of us together. They have different levels of notebooks. So the girls have a more advanced notebook, the boys have the junior notebook, just different amounts of writing. I read the text to them and then they have to give me an output at their own level. Then sometimes we have Chinese here, or we have Michael Clay Thompson Language Arts. This is something I'm just reading to them and we're just gonna be verbally responding, working on the different parts of speech. And when it's Chinese, same thing, we work together at it, we play games, everyone is able to comprehend and learn at their own levels. Morning basket, that's just something we do together. We're reading, we're doing activities, we're doing art appreciation, things like that. Everyone can do that at their own level. Then we have group work, so usually it's a science and a history. So science, for example, I will read some pages out of a Usborne book, and I will have my children pick some interesting facts. Depending on their grade, I will ask them to write a certain number of sentences. So my 2 younger boys in the past, they were writing 2 sentences. Now that they're a little older, I might ask them to do 3. The girls were writing 3 sentences. Now I might ask them to do 4. So you can just level it up based on each child's abilities. Then we have history. I'm reading aloud to all of them. And then we just have some simple notebooking. Usually it's copy work. It's paste something in the book and we just discuss what we learned. So that is what our group subjects look like with the 4 kids. And then we go back to independent work. Tip 5 is to create as much independence as possible as they are growing and as they're developing. Different kids are going to hit different stages of independence at different times. So it's good to take a look at your children and try to come up with how much could they do on their own and how can I facilitate what they can and how can I help to make them grow. So one thing that I do in my home is I have independent work checklists that I give to them at the beginning of the week. So this is filled out for them. It tells them what they're doing each day for the whole week. Different children can do this independently to different degrees. As they get older, they are more and more able to just take that checklist and just go and complete the tasks. For instance, last year I had these checklists for my 2 boys, but I was still very much taking the assignments out, showing them what they were supposed to do, checking it off almost on my own, and just kind of helping them work through those things. They weren't really taking ownership of that checklist. Whereas this year, as we're moving into 4th and 5th grade, they are slowly becoming a little more independent in that. They're now looking at the checklist, they're seeing what they need to do that day, and they're coming up a little bit more with a plan on how to accomplish those tasks. So definitely not independent with their checklists at all. Slowly, we're moving towards that direction. So at this point, they have their binders, they have their checklists. I don't pull things out for them. They can look at their checklist and they can find what they need to do in their binders, and they're just becoming a little more independent with that. On the other hand, I have currently she is 6th grader. We started homeschooling when she was in 4th grade. And at that point, I could hand her a checklist and she was able to complete most of the assignments without help from me, or just able to go about completing those with some help from me occasionally. So different kids are at different stages and levels and abilities as far as becoming more independent, but we can slowly work in that direction. For independent work, each child has a checklist. So this is my youngest son's checklist. So we have daily devotions, so he checks that off as he does it. Teaching textbooks is his math. So those are the days that he's doing his math. And then these are his other independent work. Some things he will need help with, some things he can do on his own. So there's a mix of independent work and things that he might need help with. So USA is just one of his activity books. He can do that completely on his own. Me Academy, he might need a little bit of help, Time for Math Facts, and then Explode the Code. So those are pretty independent. And I mentioned that my boys are becoming more independent and more able to use this checklist on their own. So here's my other son's checklist. So this is my 5th grader. Both boys have about the same amount because even though they're in different grades, their abilities are different. This son, he does a little more Explode the Code, and he also has spelling because those are things that he needs to work on. Whereas this son, I just give some activities that he's interested in to help him keep working. And then I have my 2 girls. You will see that their checklists look pretty similar. They are also a grade apart, but the activities and things on their checklists are different. So this is my daughter who's very independent. She can do a lot of the stuff on her own with occasional help from me. So she'll just call me when she needs help, but she will pretty much do this checklist as soon as she can. It might take 2 or 3 days, and then she's done, and then she just does her other activities. And then this is my other daughter. Just different things, they need different things. So I think those checklists really help them have those independence. They're not waiting for me to tell them what to do next. I do have to make sure I have clear expectations on what needs to be done. For example, we need to do math first thing because I am there to help. Of course, I am also there at the end of the day to help as well, but it's just good to get that one chunk, the math, out of the way. So we get that out of the way pretty much first thing, and then they are free to work on the rest of their checklist items, and I am there to help them as needed. So I hope those 5 tips are helpful if you're trying to figure out how to teach different kids, different ages. I know this was something that I was super curious about when I first started or before I started homeschooling, how to keep everyone occupied and busy and working on what they need to be working on at the different levels that they need to be working on. Thanks to Nikki for inviting me to join in this collaboration. Don't forget to check out her channel. I will link it below, as well as the playlist where all the moms are going to be telling all their tips on how to homeschool multiple kids in multiple ages. This is definitely a topic I'm super interested in, and I can't wait to see their videos. If you have any additional tips that you want to add on top of this video, I would love to hear it in the comment section below. Or if you have any more questions, please do feel free to ask me. I would love to have a conversation with you. Thanks for coming today, and I hope to see you in my next video. Goodbye, everyone.